going on, everyone? Joe here with Good Old Scratch Custom Apparel. Thank you so much for tuning into another video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, the bell, and leave comments as I go along through this lesson. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about aligning the Prestige R2 Pro with the Miro 13 Max. I did talk about this in another video if you want to check that out. This is just kind of a refresher. I've had a lot of people ask about lining the Miro with the Prestige so that they have the cleanest feed with the PET film as it's going through the powdering station and the take-up reel. So let's start. All right, so to begin, you just want to make sure that your Miro is placed as centered to the heating element of the Prestige R2 Pro. Just eyeball the best you can. You want it to be just below the heating element and not too far away from the Prestige R2 Pro. I'm roughly about 5 inches between the two machines. So in this case, I want to make sure that the PET film is feeding directly down into the Miro 13 evenly. The back heating element here, this platen, is the first thing that's going to be curing your prints that are coming out of the Prestige R2 Pro. So you kind of want to make sure that it goes flush across the Miro as it's printing. Once you have this set up, you really don't want to move it. If you move it, you're going to have to recalibrate everything every time you go back to do a print. The other thing to remember is the size of the film you're using. With the Prestige R2 Pro, you have 13 inches. So the media you're using might vary by an inch or two. I've noticed that between the different versions of the Quick Glide I've been using. This one goes pretty much to the full 13 inches. Now some of them might be maybe 12 and a half, I think, when you measure them. So just be aware of that as well. You want to make sure that the media is aligned as center into the back of the Prestige R2 Pro before you start feeding it through as well. And so once we're here, the next step would be just simply getting the PET film through the Miro and then over to the roll feeder. Okay, so I'm going to take my media I've already been using and just sift it through the heating element. My Miro's not on yet, so don't turn anything on until you have this completely set up. I'm just going to keep advancing the media so I have enough. Wanted to see it come out on the other side. Again, you're using, I mentioned this in the other video as well, it's about 6 feet of media every time you set this up, like 5 to 6 feet. So that's also why I recommend making sure when you're talking with customers you have at least a minimum to make it worth all this material that will inevitably be wasted. Okay, so we have that fed through. Now we're going to set up the core. Once it comes through here, we're going to be setting up the core on this take-up reel here. You want to have a couple pieces of tape ready to adhere the PET film. Okay. Now, your core size should be pretty standard. It should match up with the media that you're using. Now, I'm not going to lock this in yet. I want to have you guys see that there is a grid. This is why you might want to make sure that things are as straight as they can be. On the back of this platen, the first platen, there's also the same grid, the ruler. So you can align with the ruler up at the top, making sure that it's flush, it's coming out as straight as possible, coming down completely underneath this take-up bar over here. Give myself a little more slack. And now, you don't want to go super tight on this first pull. I'm just doing this to make sure that my edge of my media is aligning similar to what I'm seeing up at the top. There might be a slight variation. It's not that big of a deal. You can adjust that over time. It might not be that big of a problem. You just don't want, at the end of it, you just don't want too much of it veering off of your core here while it's taking up. So where I'm aligned, everything should be perfectly fine. Now this is going to go underneath this, take a bar, and then you just want to make sure that the media is taped onto your core, making sure that this is straightened up with your Miro. And again, you don't need this part to be super taut yet. Okay, you want to make sure that these are firmly placed inside the core. And then once you have this aligned, you're going to lock this down so it doesn't move too far or move one way or the other. This is key too. Now this is very important. When you're placing the media, see I can't press this down. This wheel here is what keeps the media in place in the powdering station. Now you want this media to naturally fit both sides. Now if you place this in here, if I place it in as is, it's gonna fit because I've had it ready for this media. Now you want to make these adjustments with the Phillips head on either side if you haven't been using the same size media. You don't need to do this every time. Once you have this fixed, it'll stay that way, which will help the feed stay straight. So just make sure that on this wheel, these edges are right up at the end of the media and they aren't completely tight on it. It has enough wiggle room, but it'll guide this correctly. And obviously this is going to encompass all your adhesive powder once this is printing. And this is another question people get. At this point, I have everything ready to go. I can turn my main power on. I keep it at the default settings. This is 130 degrees it'll get up to Celsius, and I believe it's 80 degrees Celsius. So that's the heat for the upper platen of the Miro 13 Max and the lower platen of the Miro 13 Max. That'll cure the prints as they're going through after it goes through the powdering station. Now you want to make sure you turn on the main heating and you turn on the preheating. Now that's all we have to turn on right now, and this thing heats up really quick. So once these prints get going, it'll already be up to temperature. So my prints just began. Everything is set up. The next step would be adding the hot melt adhesive powder into the powdering station. I don't do that right away. I kind of wait until my first print is sort of at the edge of the upper platen here on the Miro 13 Max, and then I'll add the powder adhesive. You can add it at any point, but really doesn't do anything until the prints are ready to go. So just be prepared for that, and then we'll turn on the fan that'll kick away the excess powder before it goes through the heating element, and I'll show you guys how I do that on the side of the Miro 13 Max. This job isn't overly large. I only have 4 of these coming out, so this is going to be done quicker than I thought. At this point, we can add the hot melt adhesive. I'm just going to carefully pour it onto the media. I know I don't need that much, so I'm just going to put a decent coating of it. Make sure this is closed up. And then you're going to put this protective cover over. That's just because it might kick up some as it's going through the shaker. Put it on correctly. There we go. Alright, now down here, once we have that on, you can turn on the shaking speed, which is just simply turning this knob clockwise. You can pick a pretty even speed You don't got to go crazy on it. And then you want to make sure that the purifier's on. This, I don't think matters if it's up or down. So this is just what you hear right now is this little fan spinning and kicking off the excess adhesive onto back into the reservoir. But you can have it up as long as it's on. If it's neutral, it's not on. You have it down, I think it just spins the other way. It's one way or the other way. So it doesn't matter. I just always keep it up. And then this is going to finish up its last job. I'm at 92%. And then I'll show you how we finish this up. And that's that. So my 4 prints didn't even really make it through the Miro. Print's done, but now we got to get this through the Miro. So you have to manually press the down button. You want to give it a 1 second and count 5 seconds. It's a little tedious. I don't show you guys this part very often. But 1 second, count 5 seconds. And basically, I mean, I could have sped that part up till it gets through to the actual, if you had prints up here, you don't want to do this. You want to actually let it go through its system. All right, now the first part's going through the heating element. Here's where you actually want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press it once, 1, so on and so forth. Now, this is how you're going to finish out your entire print. Every time you use the Miro, or the Prestige into the Miro, this is just because you have to make sure these last parts of your transfers are actually getting fully cured with the adhesive on it. There's really no way around it. And again, on the back side, you still end up using or wasting potentially a few feet depending on how much adhesive gets on it, because you don't want to use too much of the PET film with adhesive on it. It's just part of the deal. And then when you check out front too, I always give it a feel. You want to make sure that your prints actually feel kind of like the peel of an orange. You know, you don't want it to feel too sticky or too powdery. If it's too powdery, that means it's clumping up somewhere. There might be too much moisture in your adhesive powder, so you want to be careful on that. You just want to check, make sure everything is consistent. All right, and that's that. All right, this is what I wanted to show you guys. I know this job was too quick, but if it would have kept rolling, it would have been completely fine. Mainly just to show you guys the alignment to get as much of a consistency on your take-up reel here, so that you don't have too much skewing one way or another. You do just want to test it out, feel it out. What I would recommend is just as soon as you have it set up where it's correct for you, just try not to move the Miro or your printer. Try to keep everything as stationary as possible. I have my Miro up on Apple boxes right now. It's locked in place, but if you do nudge the Miro by accident, it will shift it off. If you know you did that, or you have people that work for you that might do that, you do want to calibrate it every time to make sure that your alignment is 100%, especially if you're doing bigger jobs. But I've done jobs that I've gone over 100 transfers and I've used without it skewing too bad and having to stop my job. So it just takes a little bit of time to make sure you're lined up correctly and evenly. Use the ruler lines on your Miro 13 Max. Just make sure that everything is as straight as possible, and you shouldn't have any problem with the take-up reel and all that. So thank you guys for watching this. I hope this helped a little bit. If you have more questions or specifics about this or anything I discussed, make sure you leave them in the comments. If you're looking to get your hands on the Prestige R2 Pro or the Miro 13 Max or both, check out the link that's in the description below. Also, if you're looking to get some custom transfers from me, leave some comments and I'll get back to you. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching and following along, and keep being a rock star.
I was thinking quite a lot about one thing in particular, like